They never feared you when you were quiet. They never feared you when you were trying. They never feared you when you were starving for a chance, begging life to give you something, anything, to hold on to. They only started watching you the moment you stopped asking. Because the moment you stop asking, you stop being human to them. You become something else. They wanted you humble. They wanted you broken, but polite. They wanted you disciplined, but only enough to serve, never enough to dominate. And when you didn't fit their system, when you didn't bow, when you didn't crumble the way you were supposed to, they called you a problem, not because you were dangerous, but because you were uncontrolled by them. Understand this early, or you'll waste years of your life confused. This world does not fear weakness. It ignores it. This world does not hate struggle. It exploits it. But what the world does fear is a person who has nothing left to lose and nothing left to prove. That's who you're becoming. You weren't born cold. You were trained into it. Every time you were overlooked, every time you were underestimated, every time you were told you weren't enough, weren't special, weren't chosen, something inside you hardened. Not because you wanted it to, but because staying soft was dangerous. You learned early. Talent doesn't protect you. Kindness doesn't save you. Potential doesn't mean anything in a system that rewards results. So you adapted. While others complained, you endured. While others searched for motivation, you built tolerance. While others waited for recognition, you learned how to move unseen. And that's when the shift happened. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet, dangerously quiet. People misunderstand silence. They think silence means fear. They think silence means hesitation. They think silence means weakness. They don't realize silence is what comes after you've already faced fear and decided it doesn't deserve your reaction anymore. Silence is not absence. Silence is control, and control terrifies people who live on impulse. You see, the world loves strength in theory. Be strong, they say. Be disciplined, they say. Be resilient, they say, until strength stops being decorative, until discipline stops being convenient, until resilience stops being quiet. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they panic, because explanation keeps you small. Explanation keeps you accessible. Explanation keeps you manageable, and you stopped being manageable. They wanted you tough, but not tougher than them. They wanted you confident, but not unshakable. They wanted you dangerous, but only when they could still predict you, and when they realized they couldn't. They called you a monster. Good, because monsters don't beg for understanding. Monsters don't seek permission. Monsters don't ask for space. Monsters take it. You didn't become this way out of hatred. Hatred is emotional, and emotion leaks energy. You became this way out of clarity. Clarity that no one is coming. Clarity that fairness is a story told to keep people obedient. Clarity that survival belongs to those who prepare, not those who hope. So you stripped yourself down. No excuses, no emotional bargaining, no fantasies about being saved. Just work, just pressure, just repetition, day after day. When it hurt, when it bored you, when it felt pointless, especially then, that's what they'll never understand. They think monsters explode into existence. They don't see the years of isolation, the nights where quitting felt logical, the mornings where your body moved, even when your mind wanted out. They didn't see you build discipline before confidence, control before comfort, precision before pride. That's why your presence feels heavy now. You don't talk much. You don't react fast. You don't waste energy proving anything. And people feel that. They feel the pressure of someone who has already fought battles internally. They're still avoiding externally. You walk differently now. Not arrogant, certain. Your eyes don't search for approval. Your posture doesn't ask for validation. Your silence doesn't invite conversation, because you've already learned the truth. Most people don't want to understand you. They want to categorize you so they can feel safe around you. And you don't fit categories anymore. You're not loud. You're not reckless. You're not emotional. You're efficient. And efficiency is frightening. An efficient mind doesn't panic. An efficient body doesn't hesitate. An efficient spirit doesn't need motivation. It executes. They say you've changed. Of course you have. Weakness wasn't safe. Softness wasn't protected. Being nice didn't pay the cost of survival. So you refined yourself, not heartless. Focused, not cruel. Prepared, not angry. Resolved. There's a difference. You still feel pain. You just don't let it decide. You still care. You just don't let it slow the mission because you learned something they haven't. Feelings don't build futures. Consistency does. Pressure doesn't destroy the strong. It reveals them. And when pressure squeezed you, you didn't fold. You adapted. That's why people sense danger in your calm. They can't explain it, but they feel it. They know you've been somewhere dark and came back with something sharpened. They wanted you strong. They just didn't expect you to become unbreakable. And this is only the beginning. Because in the next phase, you don't just survive. You separate. You cut distractions. You raise standards. You stop tolerating weakness, especially your own. And when that happens, they won't just call you a monster. They'll start watching you differently. Isolation didn't find you by accident. It was assigned to you, not as punishment, as preparation. Because not everyone is meant to grow in noise. Not everyone is meant to be shaped by applause. Some people are forged where there are no witnesses, no encouragement, no safety net. That's where you were sent. At first, isolation feels like rejection. You look around and ask why no one is there, why the calls stop, why the support fades, why the room gets quiet the moment you start changing. But then you realize something uncomfortable. They didn't leave because you were failing. They left because you were outgrowing the environment that fed them comfort. And growth makes people nervous. Isolation strips you. No audience to impress, no validation to lean on, no shortcuts disguised as advice, just you, your discipline, and the truth. And the truth doesn't care how you feel. This is where most people break. They mistake loneliness for a sign to turn back. They interpret silence as failure. They run toward distraction, noise, comfort, anything to avoid sitting alone with their limits. But you didn't run. You stayed, and staying changed you. When there's no one watching, you learn who you really are. You learn how weak your excuses sound when no one's listening. You learn how fragile motivation is when it's not being praised. You learn how unreliable emotion becomes under pressure. So you stopped relying on it. You built discipline instead. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline doesn't care about mood, energy, or confidence. Discipline shows up, even when your mind resists, even when your body complains, even when quitting feels logical, especially then. This is where the weapon is born, not in rage, not in desperation, in repetition, cold, unemotional, precise. You did the work when it was boring. You trained when it wasn't exciting. You continued when there was no immediate reward. And slowly, quietly, your nervous system adapted. Pain stopped feeling like danger. Fatigue stopped feeling like an enemy. Fear stopped feeling like authority. That's conditioning, and conditioning is permanent. You see, motivation is loud. Discipline is silent. Motivation burns fast. Discipline burns forever. That's why people who rely on hype collapse the moment pressure hits. And people who rely on discipline don't even flinch. They're already used to discomfort. You are. Isolation taught you something else. How to observe. When you're not talking, you're watching. When you're not reacting, you're learning. When you're not seeking approval, you're reading patterns. You stopped listening to words. You started studying behavior. And that made you dangerous because you realized most people are predictable. Their emotions control them. Their habits expose them. Their reactions betray them. And once you see that, you stop needing to manipulate. You simply wait. Waiting doesn't mean hesitation. Waiting means positioning. You learned when to move, when to stay still, when to conserve energy, when to strike. That's why your calm feels heavy now. It's not emptiness. It's readiness. They mistake your restraint for weakness. They always do. They think because you're quiet, you're unsure. Because you don't react, you don't care. Because you don't boast, you lack confidence. They don't realize restraint is a luxury only the capable can afford. Incapable people must prove. Capable people prepare. Isolation also killed something inside you. The need to be understood. At first, that loss hurt. You wanted someone to notice how far you'd come. You wanted someone to acknowledge the weight you were carrying. You wanted recognition, but recognition never came, so you adapted again. You stopped explaining. You stopped justifying. You stopped shrinking your ambition so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. And something terrifying happened. You became self-contained. Your confidence stopped depending on feedback. Your worth stopped depending on attention. Your direction stopped depending on permission. That's when you crossed the line. From survivor to threat. This is why your standards are ruthless now. You don't tolerate laziness, not in others, and especially not in yourself. Because you know the cost. You've lived the consequences of hesitation. You've felt what comfort steals. You've experienced how fast potential decays when discipline slips. So you guard your routine like a weapon, because it is one. You don't chase motivation anymore. You built systems that operate even when you're exhausted. Systems that function even when you're empty. Systems that move you forward without emotion. That's why your progress feels unnatural to people watching from the outside. They see results. They don't see repetition. They see calm. They don't see conditioning. They see confidence. They don't see years of controlled suffering. And yes, it cost you. It cost you relationships. It cost you comfort. It cost you a version of yourself that wanted to be normal. But normal never protected you. Normal never prepared you. Normal never survives when things get ugly, so you let it die. Isolation didn't make you lonely. It made you independent. And independence is threatening to a world built on dependency. Now when pressure hits, you don't panic. You adjust. When chaos shows up, you don't react. You observe. When pain appears, you don't stop. You recalibrate. That's not toughness. That's mastery. They still don't understand what they're seeing. They think you're cold. You're not. You're efficient. They think you're detached. You're not. You're focused. They think you've lost your humanity. You haven't. You've refined it because you learned something early. Emotion, when misplaced, creates weakness. Emotion, when controlled, creates precision. And precision wins. You don't need to threaten anyone. Your presence does it for you. You don't need to announce your goals. Your consistency exposes them. You don't need to explain your silence. Your results translated. This is what isolation built. A mind that doesn't flinch. A body that doesn't hesitate. A spirit that doesn't beg. A weapon that doesn't need validation to function. And the truth is, you're still isolating, even when surrounded, because not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves proximity to what you've built. You became selective not out of ego, but out of survival. Because you know, distraction costs more than pain. Complacency kills more dreams than failure. And comfort is the most dangerous enemy of all. They wanted you strong. They just didn't expect isolation to turn you into this, and they definitely weren't ready for what comes next. There comes a stage where discipline is no longer effort. You don't try anymore. You don't push anymore. You don't motivate yourself anymore. You simply operate. That's when people start to feel something shift around you. Not fear yet, something deeper. Inevitability, because control changes everything. A controlled mind doesn't argue with chaos. A controlled body doesn't freeze under pressure. A controlled soul doesn't beg when things go wrong. It adjusts, and adjustment is power. You learned this the hard way. You learned that panic wastes energy. Emotion clouds timing. Ego exposes weakness, so you killed those habits first. Not violently, deliberately. You stopped reacting to disrespect. You stopped responding to provocation. You stopped explaining yourself to people who already decided how they see you. That silence wasn't avoidance. It was calculation. Most people think execution means aggression. They're wrong. Execution means precision, doing the right thing, at the right moment, with the right amount of force, for the right reason. No excess, no hesitation. That's why you slowed down. You stopped rushing outcomes. You stopped forcing progress. You stopped chasing quick wins. Because you realized something dangerous. Speed without control is noise. Control without noise is dominance. You became patient, and patience, when paired with capability, is terrifying. People don't notice it at first. They just feel uneasy around you. You don't overshare. You don't seek attention. You don't fill silence. You let it sit. And silence makes people reveal themselves. While they talk, you listen. While they boast, you measure. While they react, you observe. You started seeing patterns everywhere. Who cracks under pressure? Who lies under stress? Who folds when comfort disappears? And you don't judge. You note, this is where you became unavoidable. Because once you understand patterns, you stop being surprised. And surprise is the last advantage weak systems rely on. You stopped announcing moves. No warnings, no hype, no drama, just results appearing where doubt used to live. That's why they're confused. They didn't see you coming. They thought because you weren't loud, you weren't moving. They thought because you weren't emotional, you weren't invested. They thought because you weren't visible, you weren't dangerous. They misunderstood silence. Silence isn't empty. Silence is loaded. You see, loud people burn out fast. Reactive people reveal themselves early. Emotional people exhaust their leverage. But someone who waits, someone who trains quietly, someone who builds without witnesses, they arrive finished. You stopped seeking moments. You started building position. Position doesn't need applause. Position doesn't need approval. Position makes outcomes unavoidable. That's why when you act now, it feels sudden to everyone else. But to you, it was overdue. You don't need to prove toughness. Your calm under pressure does it. You don't need to threaten. Your consistency applies pressure automatically. You don't need to rush. Time works for those who are prepared. And preparation became your identity. You prepare when things are stable. You prepare when nothing is happening. You prepare when others relax, because you understand. Chaos doesn't announce itself. Opportunity doesn't wait. And weakness always shows up when you least expect it. So you eliminated it early. This is where fear loses power over you. Not because you're fearless, but because fear no longer controls your decisions. Fear becomes data, information, something to factor in, not run from. That's control, and control rewires you. You don't flinch anymore. When plans collapse, you reroute. When pressure increases, you narrow focus. When setbacks hit, you extract lessons. No spirals, no drama, no emotional debt. You've become predictable to yourself. And that's dangerous, because when you know how you'll respond under pressure, pressure stops being a threat. It becomes a tool. Others burn energy managing emotions. You conserve energy executing strategy. Others seek relief. You seek leverage. Others want comfort. You want advantage. That's why you don't chase peace. You build stability inside chaos. That's why you don't look for balance. You learn to stand while everything shifts. That's why you don't need reassurance. You trust preparation. People feel this when they're around you. They can't explain it, but they know you're not improvising life. You're running it. You're not aggressive. You're inevitable. You don't force presence. You create gravity. You don't demand respect. You make resistance expensive. This is the stage where you stop being compared. You don't fit categories anymore. Not motivational, not emotional, not aggressive, just effective. They wanted a monster. They thought that meant chaos. What they got was something worse. Control, because chaos can be fought. Control has to be accounted for. You're no longer chasing outcomes. You're shaping environments. You're no longer reacting to circumstances. You're designing responses before they arrive. That's why excuses don't land anymore. That's why distractions don't stick. That's why comfort feels foreign now, because you've tasted something else. Command. You command your routine. You command your focus. You command your reactions. And anyone who commands themselves eventually commands outcomes. This is the phase where people fall away again. Not because you pushed them, because they can't keep up with the pace of someone who doesn't stop for emotion. And you let them go, quietly. No bitterness, no speeches, no explanations. Because explanation is unnecessary when direction is clear. You don't seek revenge. You embody consequence. You don't chase recognition. You become unavoidable. You don't look for permission. You operate above it. And now you're close to the final shift. The one where identity fully changes. Where survival becomes dominance. Where discipline becomes instinct. Where control becomes presence. They wanted a monster. What they're about to get is something they can't move, distract, or stop. There's a moment that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No applause, no explosion, no announcement. Just a quiet, internal decision. The moment you realize the weak version of you can't come any further. Not because it failed, but because it has served its purpose. That version of you was necessary once. The one that felt deeply. The one that hoped people would understand. The one that believed effort alone would be enough. That version kept you alive when you didn't know any better. But survival is no longer the mission. Dominance is, and dominance requires sacrifice, not of others, of yourself. This is where most people hesitate. They feel loyalty to who they used to be. They feel guilt for changing. They feel fear of becoming too much. So they stay half-formed, strong enough to suffer, too weak to finish. You didn't stop here. You understood something brutal. If you don't kill the weak self, it will sabotage the strong one. Not loudly, quietly, with excuses, with nostalgia, with comfort disguised as wisdom. So you made a choice. No mercy. You stopped negotiating with your limits. You stopped romanticizing struggle. You stopped explaining your past. You stopped carrying identities that no longer fit. You cut them loose, clean. This is where the final transformation happens. Not external, internal. You stop asking, am I ready? You start asking, is this required? And if it is, you move, no emotion attached. You don't chase motivation now. You deploy discipline. You don't wait for clarity. You act until clarity appears. You don't fear pressure. You expect it. Pressure stopped feeling hostile. It feels familiar, like home, because pressure is the environment you were built in. Comfort dulls you. Ease weakens you. Stillness without purpose irritates you. You need resistance. You need weight. You need friction. That's where you sharpen. And now, the world starts responding differently. Not louder, heavier. People don't challenge you as openly anymore. They hesitate. They test boundaries carefully. They choose words slowly. They sense something in you that doesn't need to be proven. They don't know what it is, but they feel it. It's the absence of desperation, the absence of need, the absence of fear. You no longer move to be seen. You move because movement is who you are. You no longer need wins to feel validated. Wins are simply confirmation. Loss doesn't destroy you. It recalibrates you. Pain doesn't scare you. It informs you. Chaos doesn't shake you. It focuses you. That's why you're dangerous now. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're unshakable. You don't rush. You don't force. You don't overreact. You let situations expose themselves. And when they do, you act with finality. This is what people mean when they say, you're not the same anymore. They're right. You're not. You don't seek fairness. You seek leverage. You don't ask for chances. You create inevitability. You don't chase outcomes. You build systems that produce them. Your mind is quieter now. Not empty. Clear. You don't think in emotion. You think in execution. You don't ask how it feels. You ask what it costs. You don't ask if it's hard. You ask if it's necessary. That's the mindset shift they'll never understand. Because it requires letting go of comfort as a value. Most people worship comfort. You outgrew it. They'll call you extreme. They'll say you've gone too far. They'll say you've changed. Let them. They said nothing when you were bleeding. They said nothing when you were building. They don't get a voice now. You didn't become this to scare people. You became this so nothing could ever control you again. You don't need approval. You have alignment. You don't need praise. You have precision. You don't need love from the world. You have loyalty to the mission. And here's the final truth, the one most people never reach. Peace was never promised to you. Comfort was never your reward. Balance was never your destination. You were built for impact, to collide with limits, to break ceilings, to walk through resistance and come out heavier, denser, harder to stop. So when the nights get longer, when the road gets colder, when the pressure feels cruel, you don't ask why, you smile. Because this is the environment that made you. They wanted a monster. They thought that meant chaos. They were wrong. What they created was something far worse for the weak. Someone disciplined, someone patient, someone inevitable. You don't bark, you don't threaten, you don't posture, you finish. And now you don't need to be seen. Your presence is felt. You don't need to be remembered. Your impact stays. You don't need to be understood. Your results explain everything. This is what happens when you show no mercy to the weak self. This is what happens when discipline becomes instinct. This is what happens when control becomes identity. You didn't lose your humanity. You refined it. You didn't become heartless. You became precise. You didn't turn cold. You became untouchable. They wanted a monster. Let them have what they asked for.